Well, hello there, Coastal Bend. Meteorologist Diamond Dickson here. It is a little cold in the studio, so I have on my coat. I hope that you all are at home and warm, hopefully snuggled under your covers, what have you. But once we get into this, I'll take it off, and things, because we don't want all that in the way. But we are going to get into some winter weather updates. Not much has changed since earlier when we were on Sunrise this morning, but nonetheless, some of our warnings had expired, so it's just good to give updates before we have our noon show. So what I'm going to do is show right here is Snoopy's Pier. Ideally, you can see there's really not a lot of people crossing over the JFK Causeway, and it's just very gloomy right now, overcast skies, and it's still very cold here in Corpus Christi and all across the Coastal Bend. Now, we got a good look at that one. Now, also with these conditions that we have been seeing this morning, these icy conditions, the wintry mix, we're going to now take a view of SPID. Now, as you know, SPID is closed down at the moment because of those dangerous conditions, and that's a good idea of when we'll see that they will improve. But for now, this is how our roads are looking, and there's even more ice accumulation on some roads, more so than others. But if you don't have to be outside, don't put yourself in harm's way. And ideally, too, we still are going to deal with the lingering effects of the wintry mix throughout the morning and as well as in the afternoon and evening. And I'll explain why here in a bit. Now we'll look at our hazards headlines, because that's going to give us a good breakdown of what we're looking at. So we do still have multiple alerts in place nonetheless. Freezing and below freezing conditions also as well. That's what we're dealing with. And that wintry precipitation, that's going to last until about tomorrow morning. Now, when I say the whole wintry precipitation, how we're dealing with it until tomorrow, well, although a lot of our moisture has moved well east of us, well, we still have now this cold, dry air that's still lingering in the atmosphere from the Arctic blast. And with that, is going to give us the opportunity to refreeze overnight. Our temperatures tonight are going to be very low, giving us the perfect mix and opportunity for us to kind of harden up any precipitation that fell throughout the day from last night into today. So temperature-wise and feel-like wise, we're at 31 in Rockport as well as Port Aransas, here in Corpus Christi, Mathis, George West, San Diego, and of course, that yellow number is our feels like. Those are our wind chill values. They're in the teens for a lot of our neighborhoods. 17 for Port Aransas, 19 for Rockport and Beeville, as well as here in Corpus Christi and San Diego. 17 is the feel like temperature in Freer. So we have a lot of cold temperatures going on where we're between freezing and below freezing and almost near freezing. But if we look at even the highs today, we're not going to get that warm at all. And when I say warm, I'm saying at least the cusp of 40 degrees. That's going to be about as far as we get. So current winds are still hanging on to a strong pattern. We have a north wind coming out at 20 miles per hour in Rockport, 25 in Port Aransas, 24th Naval Air Station, 18 here in Corpus Christi, and 15 there in Kingsville, 16 Alice, 17 Orange Grove. So we still have some strong winds going on. They will hang on to a strong pattern up until a good portion of the afternoon, and then they're going to fare off as we get into the evening, and they won't be as strong and gusty. But even earlier this morning, we were seeing about 40 miles per hour along Port Aransas and near our coast. So throughout the day, you'll see our wind gusts kind of go down a bit as we head further into the evening. And then by tonight, you'll see more so between 5 to 15 miles per hour with that wind gust. So well, we already kind of got a good idea of this. We talked about multiple alerts. I'm going to show you the alerts that are still in place, and I'm also going to tell you more so about that wintry precipitation. And thank you for all the pictures and videos that you all had sent in to our Chris 6 page, my page, and the Coastal Bend Weather Watchers page so that I could see what it was looking like in portions of your neighborhood. So we still have a freeze warning in effect until 1 p.m. We have that wind advisory until noon, that gale warning until 6 p.m., and a small craft advisory until Wednesday, 12 a.m. So, of course, the waters are a bit choppy out there. That wind's really carrying a force there with it. And remember, gale warning is due to those increased winds over water that aren't associated with a tropical cyclone, but they're increased winds. So that just gives you our rundown of what we are working with at this hour and those freeze alerts. So we still have that warning in place for a lot of our communities across the Coastal Bend. And of course, protecting the 4 Ps is important. And we usually see this because of temperatures when they're 32 degrees or less for 2 or more hours. And we've been feeling like that, and we actually were at temperatures at 32 degrees and under for 2 or more hours. Even this morning, Corpus Christi was at 31 and then 30, and we never really kind of made it out of that range. So that's why we're seeing this specific warning, but it does expire at 1 p.m. today. Also, with some cold weather alerts, we have those cold weather advisories also in place with those wind chill values 25 degrees or lower, which we saw they're in the teens. So it's important that we dress in layers and you cover up any exposed skin. I mean, things like frostbite are real, and hypothermia, you don't want to have any portions of like your fingers or your ears, your nose, your toes. Those are the first thing to lose circulation if you're going into things like hypothermia, because your body's wanting to protect your internal organs. So what we want to do is make sure we're dressed in multiple layers if you, for any reason, have to go out. Protecting the 4 Ps, like I mentioned, people, plants, pets, and pipes. You want to make sure you're already doing that. That's already in motion well until Wednesday, when we could be more so out the clear. But for now, that should be your main focus. And when we talk about wind chill, and I showed this throughout the morning show and kind of throughout the past couple days, well, we lose a lot of heat through convection. We kind of lose heat off the top of our head first. And usually when there's little to no wind, it's okay, we stay warm. But when we add in that wind, well, that's when we start to really lose heat quicker. So this is why if you take an outside temperature of like 45 and there's wind blowing, like for instance, the 30-mile-per-hour wind, well, it's going to feel a lot colder than what it actually is outside. So when it's windy, the moving air breaks up that insulating warm layer. And this is going to help speed up our heat loss, making it feel a lot colder, like 35. So that's usually kind of like a good idea to think of, is sometimes when it's about 30 degrees outside, it could feel like 18. That was our scenario this morning for here in Corpus Christi. So for the past 10 hours, our temperatures haven't really fared too much. We started out overnight midnight at 36 degrees here in Corpus Christi. You could see we had already started raining here with a north-northeast wind between 30 and 31 miles per hour. We hung on to a strong wind pattern well until 2 and 3 a.m. That's when a good portion of our sunrise team started arriving to the station. And then that's when we started to see a wintry mix early into about that 4 to 7 and 8 a.m. hour. But here we are still in the low 30s, and it's going to take a minute before we actually make it out of that low 30 range. But I'll show you here the hour by hour. So we're going to be windy up until about noon, 1 o'clock, still strong north wind. And then about 2 o'clock, we're going to start to maybe see a peak of sunshine. That peak of sunshine is going to last about up until 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. But you can see that we don't make it out of 40. That's going to be our warmest. We usually see our warmest part of the day between 12 and 4 p.m. That's usually when we have like daytime peak heating, but that's going to be the warmest. We quickly come out of that back into the 30s, and let's travel all the way down. And then this is where we would hit freezing level 9 o'clock. You could see at 10 o'clock we will be back to below freezing. Those feel likes will be definitely in the teens once again tonight. That's what gives us our opportunity to refreeze, and that's what makes the road then unsafe. Slick conditions, things that we don't want you to have to encounter. So we saw rain Monday into Monday night, which led us to having sleet and freezing rain and light snow in some areas. Light freeze to hard freeze into Monday night into today, Tuesday, and those wind chills in the single digits to teens. And right now we're seeing those in the teens. Now looking to future tracker, if you push ahead, well, ideally, we have a lot of that moisture already move east of us, and those lingering clouds clear well out of the coastal bend. So by 6 o'clock tonight, of course, all the clouds will be gone, and all of that increased moisture that we saw that came into the coastal bend Monday, gone. But then we deal with the cold, dry air just lingering. Well, it's ideally just going to give us the opportunity to refreeze. So that's what we're looking ahead to. If for any reason that you do have to drive, well, it's good to drive slow and pump your brakes gently so that you don't skid, and have an emergency kit in your car just on standby. You see that there was already wrecks today because of the slick roads, and sometimes it's black ice, so you can't see that, you know. Once you're over it, and your car can easily lose control and lose its traction. So that's going to be something you want to keep an eye out for. When we also talk about bridges and overpasses, well, they're the ones that freeze the first, ideally, because they're higher up and there's no insulation underneath a bridge or an overpass. So they lose heat evenly, but when you think about it, they're resulting in quicker heat loss, and that cold air reaches well above and below a bridge. So it kind of gives it no opportunity to stay sustained with any warmth. So it freezes over first, and if you're going over a bridge or overpass, you're kind of going through all of that precipitation layer that fell onto the bridge or the overpass, and that cold, dry air settled on top of it, and now you're skidding over it. So that's why we really recommend that you stay home if possible. Our current dew points are well below the dry range. You see that our range starts there at 40, but we're nowhere near 40 on our map, and they actually continue to drop into the nighttime. So we'll warm up so slightly, maybe 10 degrees more, if that. And then that's when we're going to start to see more in the teens again. So by 11, this is going to be a good idea of our dew point forecast, that moisture that's hanging out in the air. Now, if we look a little bit further to 1 o'clock, did you see the drop back in the teens for Beeville? And then that continues to happen into the nighttime, 19 by 9 o'clock, 26 along the coast, further inland, low 20s as well for that dew point. So future track shows us that those showers moved east of us, the clouds clearing out, and then behind it, like I mentioned, is drier air. Forecast highs, like I mentioned, we're going to be in the low 40s, upper 30s for our neighborhoods. And this is also going to depend on if we really get that sunshine or not. And if we get the sunshine, cool, 40 will be doable, 41. But without that, that's not really going to help us warm up much at all. But we're still going to be cold tonight and even into tomorrow. So this is a good look at our forecast lows tonight. So, of course, average is 48, but that doesn't matter in this case. We're dealing with cold winter weather for sure. So we're going to be well below that average low. We're going to be in the low 30s along the coast. Further inland, we're going to be into the upper teens and the low 20s. But if you could see the surrounding neighborhoods all at 19 for our forecast low tonight. And now imagine what that feels like will be like. Absolutely, probably almost like 10 degrees, 11 degrees. So absolutely giving the opportunity for ice to refreeze, or those ice pellets that maybe you saw throughout the day. Even some neighborhoods that saw some light snow, it can stay cold and keep it there. So then that affects, of course, our driving conditions and how we go about moving throughout our day. So let's fast forward a little bit there. We're just getting an idea of what our feel like temperatures will look like into overnight. well, yeah, it'll feel like the low 20s for sure. 20s actually across the board for what it'll feel like. But even in the morning, we're still going to feel like the low to mid 30s for a lot of our neighborhoods. So just keep that in mind too. And once again, our forecast shows tomorrow also low 20s, upper teens. It's going to be a bit of a cold next couple of days, which is why I wanted to, come on here to give you some updates. We're seeing our icy conditions today, but Wednesday and Thursday will make it into the 50s, but we still have another couple of cold mornings ahead up until about Friday morning. So we still have to get through the next 3 mornings, but ideally we'll be warming up as we go. This weekend, we have a little bit of a heat wave coming in that's going to warm us up Saturday and Sunday with some showers re-entering the forecast again on Sunday, but we won't stay warm for long before we kind of hit our next cold front, but we won't even get there. Let's focus on today and the next couple of days, getting through the cold. Ideally, conditions will improve after our Wednesday, but we have to get through today and tomorrow morning and seeing what that refreeze process might look like. So I'll take it back over here to the pod and see if anyone maybe had any questions, and then I can try to answer them for you to the best of my ability. All right, let's see here. Okay, any street closures you want or road closures, we have that on our website. It's under our weather tab, and we have it under traffic conditions, and we have that updated, and it lets you know what roads are closed or what traffic might be in your area. Is SPID closed? Yes, it is closed. Let's see. How will it be tonight? I hope I answered your question, Ari Lee. You got to work at 5 p.m. So depending on your neighborhood, and I can go back and show what some lows will be tonight. And you can let me know if that is included in your neighborhood. So here's a look at our lows tonight across our neighborhoods in the coastal bend. And let's see here. Yes, what streets are closed at the moment. Also, yes, on our website. What kind of ice are we talking? Well, we're still seeing ice on our roads. Some are seeing some snow on their roads as well, light snow, which can, of course, affect driving conditions for sure. So if you do have any more questions, of course, feel free to, ask me, put it in the chat here into our log, and I can always come back and look at them, or you can directly ask me on my page as well. And I'll be around, and of course, we still have our noon show where we'll be going through, of course, the latest updates as well. By then, none of our immediate warnings will be expired by then. We still have up until 1 o'clock for some and 6 p.m. for the others. So we still have some time to go before we start seeing some of those warnings expire. But even when those expire, we have some more coming that will be for overnight into Wednesday morning. So we're not out of the clear just yet, but I do want you guys to stay safe, stay warm, stay off the roads if you can. It will be cold throughout the day. Once again, we still have a gusty northerly wind that's hanging around, making it feel way colder outside. And although that precipitation, most of it has moved well east of us here in the coastal bend, now we have that dry, cooler air to work with to see how that's going to play out for us and if we'll refreeze overnight, which would then impact our Wednesday conditions. So, hope I answered some of your questions. Like I said, if you do have any, just send me a message or type it into our Chris 6 page. I'll be happy to answer them. And I hope you have a great and safe rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you guys again soon.